Hello, everyone, and welcome to our introductory webinar for Idaho's Charter School Grant Program, Building on Success for Future Excellence. We are joined today with our Director of Outreach and Organization, Ashley Cotton, and our Director of Communications, Sarah Meskin. They'll be presenting with me today this valuable information for you in deciding whether or not you will be applying for our federal charter school program grant. Our agenda today is Introduction in Federal Language, CSP Overview and Logic Model, Grant Logistics, Eligibility and Definitions, Community Engagement, and of course, a timeline and reminders. Idaho's Building on Success for Future Excellence is a competitive public charter school grant program funded under the Congressional Every Student Succeeds Act, which reauthorized the Elementary and Secondary Act of 1965. A public charter school is non-sectarian in its programs, admissions policies, employment practices, and all other operations, and is not affiliated with a sectarian school or religious institution. Public charter schools are open to all students who apply and cannot charge tuition. A charter school receiving CSP funds must use a lottery if more students apply for admissions to the charter school than can be admitted.
Authorized by Title V, Part C of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, as amended by the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is 20 U.S.C. 7221-7221J, the Federal Charter Schools Program, CSP, provides funding to state entities, ALN 84.282A, with the purpose to expand opportunities for all students, particularly traditionally underserved students, to attend public charter schools and meet challenging state academic standards, provide financial assistance for the planning, program design, and initial implementation of charter schools, increase the number of high-quality charter schools available to students across the United States, evaluate the impact of charter schools on student achievement, families, and communities, share best practices between charter schools and other public schools, encourage states to provide facility support to charter schools, and support efforts to strengthen the charter school authorization process. The CSP State Entities Program provides financial assistance to state entities to support charter schools that serve elementary and secondary school students in a given state. Under the program, recipient state entities make subgrants to eligible applicants for the purpose of opening new public charter schools and replicating and expanding high-quality public charter schools. Grant funds may also be used to provide technical assistance to eligible applicants and authorized public chartering agencies in opening new charter schools and replicating and expanding high-quality charter schools, and to work with authorized public chartering agencies to improve authorizing quality, including developing capacity for and conducting fiscal oversight and auditing of charter schools. Public charter schools receiving subgrant funds under the CSP State Entities Program also may serve students in early childhood education programs or post-secondary students.
Idaho's consortium successfully secured the Federal Charter Schools Program grant for the years 2023 to 2028 to lead the expansion of high-quality public charter schools across the state in the amount of $24,870,000. Bloom is the project lead and grant recipient, while JCAF, John and Catherine Albertson's Family Foundation, is a critical nonprofit funding partner for this grant. The Idaho State Board of Education / the Idaho State Department of Education is the ultimate state quality control agents for this grant. The Charter Schools Program grant to state entities program is funded under the Every Student Succeeds Act, and it enables subgrants to open and prepare for the operation of new high-quality public charter schools, replicate and expand high-quality public charter schools. Replicate means to open a new charter school or a new campus of a high-quality charter school based on the educational model of an existing high-quality charter school under an additional charter. The definition of expand means to increase in the student count of an existing school by more than 50 students or at least 2 grade levels over the course of the subgrant. Idaho's Building on Success project has 3 objectives to carry out within Idaho. The first objective being to increase the number of quality Idaho charter school seats by no less than 5,900 students, especially for our most educationally disadvantaged and rural students through startup, replication, or expansion. Secondly, to support the quality authorizing in Idaho while disseminating and supporting best authorizer practices statewide. And lastly, evaluate and disseminate widely the successes and lessons of high quality charter schools to impact the broader education system.
Grant logistics. Idaho's $24,870,000 distribution. At least 90% of Idaho's federal CSP award will be utilized for competitive subgrants to eligible public charter school subgrantees. Of that, at least 7% will be utilized for state-level technical assistance activities and program evaluation and research, of which up to 3% is designated to supporting quality authorizing in Idaho. No more than 3% will be used for administration. The funding for subgrants will be divided into 3 categories based on applicant eligibility to carry out one or more of the following eligible subgrant activity. Open and prepare for the operation of new charter schools. Open and prepare for the operation of replicated high-quality charter schools. Or expand high-quality charter schools. Idaho's Building on Success Charter Schools program subgrants are designed to be for a period up to 18 months of planning and not more than 24 consecutive months of implementation activities following the opening of a new school, replication school, or expansion project. CSP subgrants are awarded on a competitive basis through a rigorous third-party review process. There is no guarantee that submitting a proposal will result in funding or funding at the request level. Proposals that do not reach a minimum score overall will not be funded. CSP subgrants are subject to an annual renewal process. Satisfactory progress towards meeting the goals and objectives stipulated within the grant will be required in order to renew the grant for a second year.
Thank you, Ashley. That's a very important slide. We've outlined here in the slides that are also available to you on our website, the allowable activities described in ESEA. So things like preparing teachers and school leaders, acquiring supplies, training and equipment, including technology. That's always a big one. We also have carrying out necessary renovations to ensure that a new school building complies with applicable statutes and regulations and minor facility repairs. This is excluding construction, and we'll talk more about that on the next slide. You also have one-time startup costs associated with providing transportation of students to and from the charter school. And this is a really great example of something that is allowable during the planning period that Ashley mentioned, but it's not after the first day of school would be the implementation period. So you would not be able to have a cost associated with transportation after the school opens. We'll talk more about that in our mandatory training where we do a deep dive on all these topics. 5 is talking about carrying out community engagement activities, which includes the cost of student and staff recruitment, talking to the community about the school, and coordinating outreach and research efforts. We are going to talk more later about a community engagement plan that's also new for this CSP. So for those of you joining us that were familiar with our past CSP grant award, there is a new requirement for community engagement plans. We also have allowable costs for non-sustained costs related to opening, replicating, or expanding high-quality charter schools when such costs cannot be met from other sources. So again, these are the restrictions that I started to mention. We do have an allowable cost guide available on our website for you under the technical assistance section of our website. Unallowable costs would be facility construction, renovation, or other capital improvement costs. If what we've shared with you today is not clear, please attend the mandatory training that we will have where we can do a deep dive into specifically what types of improvements are allowable. But just as a general rule, know that construction is not allowable. Apparel, lobbying, student activities, utilities after the first day of school, salaries for essential staff, and funding cannot be directed for other uses. These are all examples of unallowable costs. And again, this list is not inclusive, but it is presented to show typical items that cannot be covered with grant funds. So now we'll talk about eligibility and definitions.
Applicants must be approved by an Idaho state sanctioned charter school authorizer as either a new charter school, which was approved and in their first year of operations as a new LEA. Secondly, as a replication of a high quality charter school, which has opened a new charter school or campus based upon the educational model of an existing high quality charter school under an existing LEA, or as an expansion of a high quality charter school, significantly increase enrollment, or add one or more grades to a high quality charter school. Eligible applicants must, and I repeat, must provide Bloom with an approved charter school petition from an approved Idaho authorizer that provides a description of the quality controls agreed to between the eligible applicant and the authorized public chartering agency. Applicants must meet federal definition of a charter school, having applied for and receiving authorization to operate as a charter school, seeking to serve a representative student population. If you're applying for a replication or an expansion, you must provide academic data showing at least 3 years of scores higher than the state averages for ELA and math for growth and proficiency as defined by ESSA. And another note is that virtual charter schools are not eligible to apply. Schools that are choosing to engage a for-profit or nonprofit educational service provider or an educational management organization or a charter management organization must demonstrate that they and their governing boards are independent of the provider and that all fees and agreements are fair and reasonable. The ESP, EMO, or CMO does not qualify as an eligible applicant, nor may it hold or manage a subgrant award to a school.
Thank you, Sarah. So let's look a little bit more into the federal definition of a charter school. All applicants must demonstrate that they meet the federal definition of a charter school. So we do have some slides following this one that give you more of the definition of a charter school. I'm not going to read that for folks that are applying. You need to read this on your own and definitely make sure that your charter school is meeting this federal definition at all times. Also, we will continue to look for the school meeting that definition through monitoring, which is done by Bloom's staff that are qualified to monitor the subgrants if you are awarded. So you will need to consistently meet the federal definition of a charter school. And now we'll talk about some more definitions. In defining high quality for startup schools, we've provided a list. So we have evidence of a committed board of trustees that own the charter school process and have the demonstrated capacity to deliver for children and families. Identified quality instructional leaders who are either experienced or proven in running a high-performing school, or they've received first-class charter-specific training. Demonstrated ability for the school to attract, recruit, retrain, and develop top teaching talent. A sustainable business plan, a well-conceived facility plan, evidence of market demand for the school, innovative and effective learning models that meet the needs of disadvantaged and/or rural students, defined and clear transportation plan for the students, and evidence of community and parent support for the school. There are some additional requirements for replication and expansion. As was mentioned previously, we need evidence of strong academic results, including at least 3 years of above state average growth and proficiency on the ISAT, which is aligned with the federal ESSA. No significant issues identified by authorizer in areas of student safety, school finance, operational management, or statutory regulatory compliance. There is a requirement for the schools to reach out to their state-approved authorizer to let them know that they are applying for these funds. And so there needs to be good standing, which is we were talking about in the bullet point below. Success in significantly increasing student achievement, including graduation rates for all students and for each subgroup defined by ESSA, for example, economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, Hispanic or Latino, and ELL. Evidence of a student wait list, evidence of strong and stable leadership and governance, and evidence of community and parent support for the school. So here we are, the slide about community engagement, which we briefly touched on. This is new as far as the 2022 NFP. The subgrant applicant will solicit and consider input from parents and other members of the community on the implementation and operation of each charter school that will receive funds under this program. Prior to the first subgrantee reimbursement, the applicant agrees to provide a needs analysis and description of the need for the proposed project. Schools should ensure that all required elements accurately reflect the unique attributes of their school. Any application that has been plagiarized in whole or in part or lacking in uniqueness or innovation may be denied. Applicants should ensure the application is unique and are encouraged to pay special attention to justifying the need in that community, specifically for that school, and the level of buy-in from the community. So after all that, if you're still interested in applying, we are going to strongly encourage you to go to the website. And if you haven't already, download the 2024 Request for Applications for Federal CSP Grant Support. You'll have more details on the program, online application instructions, and the rubric used by peer reviewers.